A calf. In the U.S., whaling is legal only for the native population in 9 coastal villages in the state. Alaska. The largest toothed animal in the world, it was named for the milky white substance found in its head. A sperm whale. A typical song by this long-flippered whale can last between 5 and 35 minutes and can have up to 7 themes. A humpback whale. It's number 1 in adherence at 69 million. Roman Catholic. John would be proud of this southern denomination, number 2 at 16 million. The Baptist religion. They followed careful procedures to become number 3 at 8 million. The Methodists. This group, now 5 million strong, was once saved by seagulls. The Mormons. Lutheran. It was said that being with these two leaders, born 1874 and 1882, was like sitting between two lions roaring at the same time. Winston Churchill and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Referring to her father, Margaret Truman said, he loved politicians, even those from this party. Republican Party. In a 1973 Newsweek article, this Ugandan dictator was quoted as saying, "I am the hero of Africa." Idi Amin. In 1984, the San Francisco mayor remarked that toughness doesn't have to come in a pinstripe suit. Dianne Feinstein. In 1976, this vice president identified 3 periods in life: youth, middle age, and how well you look. Nelson Rockefeller. The restaurant chain known by these 4 letters also serves Florentine, Danish and Swedish crepes. IHOP. In Orthodox churches, screens before the altar display these for instruction. Icons. Formerly aligned with Lacoste, this clothing brand is now a brand of Philips Van Heusen. Izod. It's a European peninsula, or a European airline founded in 1927. Iberia. It's Albuquerque's minor league baseball team. I can't wait for Uranium 235 to bet. The isotopes. Sarah of the Clue Crew holds a wriggling echidna at the Taronga Zoo in Sydney, Australia. Naturally, Sydney's Taronga Zoo has a distinctly Australian echidna. An echidna named Millie, short for Millennium, was a mascot in the Summer Olympic Games in this year. 2000. Kelly of the Clue Crew enjoys the surf at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. It's easy to see why local tradition says that Bondi once meant water breaking over rocks in the language of these people. The Aborigines. Kelly of the Clue Crew reports from the National Maritime Museum in Sydney, Australia. One of the world's most accurate maritime reproductions is the Australian-built replica of this James Cook ship that shares a name with the Space Shuttle. Endeavour. Kelly of the Clue Crew reports from Sydney, Australia. At 3/4 of a mile, the harbour bridge is so long that it requires a permanent continuous painting crew. This man, who played Crocodile Dundee, was once a part of that crew. Paul Hogan. Kelly of the Clue Crew reports from the Sydney Opera House in Sydney, Australia. As the Opera House is located on the harbour, it's fitting that the roof is made up of these sections, named for what they're designed to evoke. Sails. Rancho del Cielo. Though it sounds like it, this type of massage was not developed in Stockholm. Swedish massage. You can't beat a circular saw from this manly brand of power tools from Sears. Craftsman. Daniel Craig's James Bond wears the Seamaster, a watch from this Greek letter company. Omega. Forget the GV, I want the G550 large cabin ultra-range jet from this company. Gulfstream. How about a made-to-measure suit from the Colazioni of this designer born in Piacenza, Italy in 1934? Giorgio Armani. Commanding J.P. Morgan's converted yacht, Richard Wainwright was a hero of the Battle of Santiago in this 1898 war. The Spanish-American War. 1760s political activist James Otis is credited with the phrase "taxation without this is tyranny." Representation. Isaac Hull captained this ship in 1812 as cannonballs from the frigate Guerriere bounced off it. The USS Constitution, Old Ironsides. Joshua Chamberlain held Little Round Top during this Civil War battle. Gettysburg. Vulpin nickname given to Patriot Francis Marion by the Brits. The Swamp Fox. The U.S. Steel Tower towers 841 feet above this steel-making city. Pittsburgh. In the center of the picture is the Transamerica Pyramid, a real high point of this West Coast city. San Francisco. The tallest building in a state capital is the Bank of America Plaza on Peachtree St. in the city. Atlanta. Tall buildings in the city include one Federal St. and one Beacon St. Boston. A historic New York skyscraper was completed in 1913 to house the headquarters of this five-and-dime store. Woolworth. It was the family favorite featuring the phones. Happy Days. Now Democratic National Committee Chairman, this former president candidate appears regularly on Meet the Press. Howard Dean. Say, kids, he was the freckle-faced puppet persona of 1950s TV. Howdy Doody. On the Disney Channel, she turned heads as the multi-talented and often animated Lizzie McGuire. Hilary Duff. Seen here, he was Jack Parr's sidekick on The Jack Parr Show. Hugh Downs. In a silent one of these, the bids are written, none of that do I hear. Business. An auction. The journal of this quiet type of institution gives an award for the one of the year. In 2010 it was in Columbus. A library. The type used for a trumpet or sax is more familiar, but string instruments can be muffled with this device. A mute. No cell phone use is permitted on quiet cars, begun in 2000 on this service's Philly-Washington run. Amtrak. The name of this branch of monks known for keeping silent comes from a 17th century Cistercian abbey. The Trappists. Kelly of the Clue Crew reports from a Dublin museum. I'm holding this novelist's cane in an Irish museum dedicated to him. He wrote passionately of Dublin but died in exile. Queen Elizabeth II has this many children. Four. After Elizabeth became queen, her first regional tours included a controversial visit to this smallest UK country. Northern Ireland. During World War II, Elizabeth and her sister were evacuated to this castle where their grandfather George V is buried. Windsor Castle. When Elizabeth was born, her parents were the Duke and Duchess of this northern English city. York. To marry Elizabeth, Prince Philip had to renounce claims to this southern European country's crown. Greece. On September 14, 2005 she gave birth to Sean Preston Federline. Britney Spears. The TV show Everybody Hates Chris is based on the childhood of this comic. Chris Rock. He auditioned for and won the part of Ron Weasley with the rap that he wrote. Rupert Grint. Her 18th birthday party was a Cinderella story with 300 guests and red velvet cake. Hilary Duff. You stand watching this shine on singer. Ryan Cabrera. Much of the fossil ivory found in the tundra is from these woolly animals. Mammoths. Term for a partial denture. Bridge. It's the dentist's term for heavily wedged and applies to some wisdom teeth. Impacted. This cooking term is Italian for to the tooth. Al dente. These teeth are found between your lateral incisors and your first premolars. Canines. I heard it through the grapevine that the singer had a hit with Let's Get It On. Marvin Gaye. Say It Loud. The Sex Machine had soul power in 1971. James Brown. This band took its name from the three elements in founder Maurice White's astrological chart. Earth, wind and fire. Was it just my imagination that Just My Imagination was a #1 hit for this band? The Temptations. You'll Be Mighty, Mighty, just letting it all hang out by naming this Brick House band. The Commodores. This SF giant, Barry Bonds' godfather, got his nickname from his unique greetings to fans. Say Hey Willie Mays. After the death of his mother, this future poet was taken in by his godfather John Allen in 1811. Edgar Allan Poe. He was the royal godfather to the son of French playwright Molière. King Louis XIV. After a mock funeral for this counterculture icon, his goddaughter, Winona Ryder, moved in with him. Timothy Leary. This British philosopher who won a Nobel Prize in 1950 was the godchild of John Stuart Mill. Bertrand Russell. A kite-eating tree is often the nemesis of this comic strip boy. This Neapolitan made his Metropolitan Opera debut on November 23, 1903 in Rigoletto. Enrico Caruso. Though born in Canada, Bob Nolan co-founded this quintessentially American Western group in the 1930s. Sons of the Pioneers. Edward Albee wrote a tragic play about this Empress of the Blues. Bessie Smith. Audio Daily Double. Her affair with the world middleweight boxing champion reportedly led her to write the following operatic clip. Edith Piaf. This Swedish phenomenon married her accompanist, Otto Goldschmidt, in 1852. Jenny Lind. Santa Rosa is a large, dark purple variety of this fruit. A plum. Difficulty breathing through the nose may be a sign that this dividing wall of cartilage and bone is deviated. A septum. A synonym for an appendix to a book. An addendum. It was the huge white marble wonder located at Halicarnassus. The mausoleum. The Latin name for ancient Troy, it's also one of the hip bones. Ilium. It was Major Margaret Houlihan's sexy nickname. Hot lips. Johnny Mondale wrote this painless tune that was the show's theme song. Suicide is painless. William Christopher played this lovable chaplain on the show. Father Mulcahy. Company clerk Radar O'Reilly was from this state. Iowa. The Colonel and LT Colonel who were the 4077th's commanding officers. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake and Colonel Sherman Potter. In Chapter 1 Alice discusses this game with a cat. Chess. He stated, "It's very provoking to be called an egg very." Humpty Dumpty. Alice considered the whole adventure one of these, even without seeing Patrick Duffy in the shower. Dream. At a fork in the road, the two finger posts pointing the way to this pair's houses point the same way. Tweedledum and Tweedledee. Alice found this poem hard to understand even after she figured out that she had to hold it up to a mirror. Jabberwocky. China and Greece didn't adopt this calendar until the 1900s. The Gregorian calendar. It was first joined with Bosnia in 1482. Herzegovina. Jamaica's second largest city and main tourist center, it shares its name with the body of water it overlooks. Montego Bay. A Spanish city, or Spanish guitarist Andrés. Segovia. Completes the title of the Eugene O'Neill play A Moon for the Misbegotten. In 1986, voters of this California resort made Clint Eastwood's day by electing him mayor. Kelly of the Clue Crew delivers the clue from Grand Central Terminal in New York. Many youngsters arrived in Grand Central to make it in New York and exited to this street. You're going out a youngster and you've got to come back a star. 42nd Street. Sarah of the Clue Crew delivers the clue from Grand Central Terminal in New York. Grand Central is a required stop for New York politicians. On September 4, 1964, this man was mobbed here on his way to winning a Senate seat that November. RFK, Robert Kennedy. Kelly of the Clue Crew delivers the clue from Grand Central Terminal in New York. Opened officially February 2, 1913, Grand Central Terminal was designed in this French-named style that allows for vast interior spaces. Beaux-Arts. Sarah of the Clue Crew delivers the clue from Grand Central Terminal in New York. In 1938, Grand Central sent off the inaugural run of the new streamliner version of this New York City-Chicago train, the Century for short. The 20th Century Limited. Kelly of the Clue Crew delivers the clue from Grand Central Terminal in New York. Grand Central is a vital hub for New York City's commuters. After a day's work in Manhattan, I can catch the 527 to this New York town where the Clintons live. Chappaqua. When the British crown jewels aren't on the Queen's head, they're on display here. The Tower of London. The daughter of an earl uses this title in front of her name, as Diana Spencer did. Lady. The two sphinxes at the base of this famous ancient obelisk were added during the Victorian era. Cleopatra /S needle. The ancient baths in Bath, England were built by these people soon after they invaded Britain. The Romans. In England it is appropriate to fly the Union Jack on April 23, this Saint's Day. Saint George. In an 1870 work, this captain plays solemnly on his organ as his sub heads toward the maelstrom. Captain, Nemo. The third witch in a 1606 play chants, a drum, this title king doth come. Macbeth. Cheryl fiddles around at the Sherlock Holmes Museum in London. Sherlock Holmes owned and often played one of these famous violins, which he claimed to be worth 500 guineas. A Stradivarius. In an 1831 novel, this dancing girl's goat, Julie, does tricks for Parisians by tapping on a tambourine. Esmeralda. In this Hawthorne tale, Alice Pinkin's ghost is said to play the harpsichord. The House of the Seven Gables. He gave up a career as a military engineer to write novels like The Brothers Karamazov. Dostoevsky. A fascination with brine led this man to found his own chemical company in the 1890s. Dow. Bet you a decimal point that you'll know he founded the American Library Association. Melville, Dewey. Yes, sir, in 1586 this British sea dog picked up some disgruntled settlers from the soon-to-be lost colony. Sir Francis Drake. As a runaway slave, Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey changed his name to this to avoid capture. Douglas. The Lindy Hop. United States. The Gavad. France. The Sevillans. Spain. The Habanero. Cuba. The Chardash. Hungary. The last four to serve as this was Pius IV in 1565. Pope. With over 2,300 stations, this format featuring artists like Alan Jackson is the USA's most popular. Country and Western. This romantic advice show hosted by Adam and Dr. Drew began on California's KROQ over 15 years ago. Loveline. This word dating back to the 1940s refers to a program aired at the same time on radio and TV. Simulcast. Art Bell's show from Pahrump, Nevada often discusses these objects, one of which Bell says he's seen. UFOs. Bruce Dumont's national political talk show is called Beyond This Washington Area Road. The Beltway. Lucy, you got some splainin' to do. Ricky Ricardo. Nanu Nanu. Mork. I'm not a magician, Spock, just an old country doctor. McCoy. MMMMMMMMMM. Unprocessed fish sticks. Homer Simpson. Looking at cleavage is like looking at the sun, it's too risky, yeah, get a sense of it and then you look away. Jerry Seinfeld. To join together, as with two pieces of film or segments of DNA. To splice. An album of clippings and photos, a fan may have one dedicated to a celebrity. A scrapbook. It's a piece of wood or stone at the base of a doorway, a bride is sometimes carried over it. The threshold. It's a grant of financial aid awarded to a student for the purpose of attending college. Scholarship. As a verb, it means to oppose and defeat a plan or effort. As a noun, it's a seat across a boat on which a rower may sit. Thwart. You can rent Lincolns and Volvos at Hertz, all three are owned by this automaker. Ford. This brewer tapped O'Doul's as a brand. Anheuser-Busch. This Iowa company can send its repairmen to fix its Magic Chef and Admiral appliances and its Hoover vacuums. Maytag. Wyeth, formerly American Home Products, owns this cough syrup recommended by Dr. Mom. Robitussin. Ashland has a very refined line, including this brand, whose logo is seen here. Valvoline. This magazine man, born in 1926, claims to be a direct descendant of Puritan patriarchs John Winthrop and William Bradford. Hugh Hefner. His production co was Simeon Films because then girlfriend Liz Hurley thought he looked like a monkey. Hugh Grant. If you could talk to the animals, maybe you would have created Dr. Dolittle, but he beat you to it in 1920. Hugh Lofting. In 2007 this Brit and Claire Danes met while filming Evening, in 2009 they got engaged. Hugh Dancy. On a 1990 edition of 20/20, he revealed he was related to Davy Crockett, rather closely. Hugh Downs. Developed by a pair of Caltech scientists, it assigns a number to quantify the size of an earthquake. Though sworn in 7 months earlier, Louis Strauss was denied confirmation by this body in 1959. Senate. Last name of Reagan's Commerce Secretary Malcolm, or his sister, etiquette expert Letitia. Baldrige. In 1903 George Cortelyou may have been overworked as both Secretary of Commerce and of this. Labor. He was Secretary of Commerce for most of the 1920s, before he became president. Herbert Hoover. Harry Hopkins directed the WPA, this program, before becoming Commerce Secretary in 1938. Works Progress Administration or Work Projects Administration. Exumake's Land and Sea Park lies just south of Nassau in this country in the West Indies. The Bahamas. This 4,000-acre Los Angeles park is named for a mining tycoon, not for film director D.W. Griffith Park. This Philadelphia National Historical Park contains the site of Benjamin Franklin's home. Independence Park. Whipsnade Park is the country branch of this great urban zoo. The London Zoo. The USA's largest military park is Chickamauga and Chattanooga, which covers over 9,000 acres in these two states. Tennessee and Georgia. In 2004 Scarlett hit the Krusty Krab as the voice of Mindy the Mermaid in this Title Guys movie. SpongeBob SquarePants. As the face of this French luxury bag co., Scarlett may have had to clobber a few people selling knockoffs. Louis Vuitton. In 1997 Macaulay Culkin was out of the third entry in this film series, but Scarlett was in, as Molly. Home Alone. Scarlett provided childcare for the XS, Paul Giamatti and Laura Linney, in this 2007 film. The Nanny Diaries. Scarlett is the Christina of this 2008 Woody Allen film in which a love triangle becomes a love square. Vicky Cristina Barcelona. An enclosure for the temporary housing of cattle. A paddock, stockyard or stockade also acceptable. To remove someone from the priesthood. Defrock. Household insect pest of the order Dictyoptera. A cockroach. Poisonous herb of the parsley family that was used in executions in ancient Greece. Hemlock. Scottish town that was the site of Robert the Bruce's 1314 defeat of the English army. Bannockburn. I'm supposed to beware of Greeks bearing gifts but if they bring me a gift one of these, I shouldn't look in its mouth, A horse. Okay, he who hesitates is lost, but aren't I supposed to do this before I leap? Look. If this is mightier than the sword, then why the heck do actions speak louder than words? A pen. Wait a minute, opposites attract, but these flock together? Huh. Birds of a feather. So do I need a bigger kitchen, or not? Many hands make light work, but too many cooks spoil this stuff. The soup. An astronomical viewing facility, or Henry Fountain's column in Tuesday's Science Times. To commemorate the birth of reggae legend and native son Bob Marley, February 6, 1990 was a national holiday in this country. Jamaica. Inducting Marley into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994, this U2 singer said Bob was showman, shaman, human. Bono. In February 1979, Marley and his group headlined at this Harlem venue, the first reggae band to do so. The Apollo. Marley said his backup band was named this because we started out crying. The Wailers. War, a song off Bob's 1976 album Rostamon Vibration, had lyrics taken from a speech by this emperor. Haile Selassie. A runner-mounted snow vehicle. Dog sled. A white-flowered shrub. Dogwood. The hottest period of the summer. Dog days. A sharp bend in a road. Dogleg. A set of religious beliefs. Dogma. MRS Paul Newman. Joanne Woodward. MRS Antonio Banderas. Melanie Griffith. MRS David Duchovny. T. Leone. MRS Ethan Hawke. Uma Thurman. MRS Mel Brooks. Anne Bancroft. O'Casey and Yates were both born in this capital. Dublin. This German city is on the Rhine River about 20 miles north of Cologne. Düsseldorf. It occupies 18,600 square miles in the West Indies and shares its island home with another nation. The Dominican Republic. This Scottish river flows into the North Sea at Aberdeen. the D. Once part of the French protectorate of Somaliland, this nation gained its independence in 1977. Djibouti. Employee Relations Manager is a job in this field abbreviated HR. Human Resources. In the medical field, you can be a phlebotomist and draw a salary for drawing this. Blood. From the Latin for fellow slave, this worker in the hospitality field makes arrangements for hotel guests. A concierge. In this sector you'll find jobs with government and with non-profit organizations. Public sector. This job of collecting and analyzing numerical data applies to baseball as well as biology. Statistician. Two topless statues were covered up by John Ashcroft when he served at this government department. Last name of the father and son actors who have played two different real US presidents, one on film and one on TV. Brolin. Ryan and Tatum. O/Neil. Brothers Ben and Casey. Affleck. Dad and son Freddie. Prince. Ephraim and Stephanie. Zimbalist. Full court press. Basketball. No holds barred. Wrestling. To be stumped, sticky wicket. Cricket. Down and out. Boxing. Ground rules. Baseball. The Aswan High Dam. The Nile. The Glen Canyon Dam and a certain presidential one. The Colorado River. The Three Gorges, Kutang, Wu and Zilang. The Yangtze. The Grand Coulee Dam. The Columbia. Gabčíkovo, to be Gabčíkovo Najimaros when the Hungarians build their half. The Danube. On July 20, 1999, the opening bell was rung off of Wall Street, way off. It was these in San Francisco. Cable car. In an alligator spread in the options market, these of the broker are so big they eat all your profit. Commissions. Dow Jones has three big stock averages: transportation, utility and this. Industrial. It can be a sharp, short price decline that interrupts a persistent upward trend, or a fluid for typos. Correction. The P/E of GE or any company is this ratio.